Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Are you really wondering what's happening in Jerusalem nowadays? What have resulted of all of these clashes and all of this dead body between Palestine and Israel? Today I'm going to show you the truth that has no voice because the media has covered it with lies and hypocrisy. If you're really interested to know the truth, stay tuned with me, Salat al-Rahman, Zol Facts, and may Almighty God show and reveal the truth. Let's get started.
So I can learn how to love.
Now, to understand what's happening nowadays in Palestine/Jerusalem, we need to go back to the history of Palestine. Palestine was under the rule of Ottoman Empire that has ruled part of the world from the 14th century to the 20th century or earliest 20th century. And the Ottoman civil records of Palestine showed that 87% of their population was Muslim, following by 10% Christian, and only 3% are Jewish. Now, during the World War I, the British Empire and the French Empire has defeated the Ottoman Empire after they allied with the German and the Russians. On that time, the ruler of the British Empire was King Arthur Bulfor. Anyways, King Arthur sent a letter to one of the richest and most famous family during that time, and maybe until now, the Rothschild family. This letter has dated on November 2, 1917. That means it's 1 year before the end of World War I. And the summary of this letter, King Arthur is telling the Rothschild family that they feel sympathy and they feel sorry that the Jewish, they don't have any state, they don't have any country for them, so he decided to give them Palestine. This letter known later by Bulfor Declaration. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Palestine was ruled by British Empire. Now let's pass the date forward to 1947. Because of the increase of the clashes and war between Palestine and Israel, an increase of the dead body and blood in each side, especially to the Palestine, UN decided to divide Palestine into two states, West Bank and Gaza to the Palestinian and the rest to Israel. Now, the Masjid al-Aqsa and Sheikh Jarrah is part of the Palestinian states, where all these events and all this news are happening now. Now, what do we understand from all of this? Israel break the international law by taking and invading the Palestinian state. And they did not stop until here. They did around 35 massacres against the Palestinian only between year 1947 to 1996. And because of all of this massacre that Israel did against Palestine, Israel had one of the biggest war in her history against Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and Lebanon, and Israel ending this war by winning. And because of that, 700,000 Palestinians was forced out of their houses. Now the question that needs to be asked, is Israel looking for good and peaceful and loving life between them and the Palestinian and the Middle Eastern as general? Or there's another behind story of why they come to the Middle East? The answer to that question is no and yes, there is a behind the story. Because in 1967, Israel decided to conquest and invade 4 of non-Israel territory: Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, Gaza and West Bank in Palestine, the Golan Heights in Syria. So what's happening in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood? Sheikh Jarrah was under the rule of the Jordanian before the Israel invade and take off the land illegally in 1967. Then in 1972, Israel government decided to steal and take off the ownership of the house of Palestinian and give it to the Israel people. Even though that Sheikh Jarrah was already occupied by 3,000 Palestinians. And of course, the Palestinians rejected that, so the Israel government gave them the choice to rent their own houses and give the rent money to the Jewish person that the ownership of the house will transfer to. And of course, again, the Palestinians rejected that, so the Israel government come back with another deal, which was if the Palestinians want to have ownership of their own houses, they need to take over the Israel citizenship, which we all know, if they did that, that's the start of falling of Palestine state. And they don't need their own country, and most important, they don't need their own independent entity. Now let's take a look about this video that went viral. A guy named Nabil Kurd, and he was saying that the Israel government forced him out of his own house and other many different family.
I'd like to introduce myself, Nabil Al-Kurd. I'm a Palestinian. I was displaced from Haifa. I live with my family in addition to many other families displaced in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood since 1956, based on an agreement between UNRWA and the Jordanian government. They took 3 of our houses in Sheikh Jarrah, including half of my own house. I have the official papers that prove that we live there since 1956 in accordance with the agreement between Jordan and UNRWA.
There is another video when his daughter Muna Al-Kurd talking to a Jewish guy, he's trying to take their house.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. If I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
Yaqub, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
So the constant aggression, attacks and harassment from the Israel government and her citizens against the Palestinians while they are praying, while they are going out of their houses, while they are going inside or out from their mosque, has created normal and opposite reaction of all what they are facing. And yet the media somehow managed to make the aggressor as oppressed and the oppressed as aggressor and the real terrorist as a pacemaker and the pacemaker as a terrorist, and the world choose to go blind and deaf to see and hear the real truth because the corrupted media said so. This guy is a big example of hypocritic, corrupted media and how they can cover the truth with the lies to serve their goals.
So yesterday, you started to see members of the media who are ignorant and stupid pass around video of people chanting on the Temple Mount, right? These are Palestinians who are chanting on the Temple Mount. And they're like, look at these people resisting Israel. Look at how they're resisting Israel, Israeli oppression. Okay, so here is the video, and then I'll tell you what they're saying. 1,000 people who are all chanting in unison here. Young Palestinian men. So what exactly are they chanting?
He translated to...
So the media pushed this out. Look at this beautiful active... Here's what they're chanting in Arabic. Bomb, bomb Tel Aviv.
But the real meaning is, with our blood and with our souls, we will sacrifice ourselves for you, Gaza. Somehow he managed to change the traditional and meaningful songs into hateful and evil song. So he decided to twist the translation because he knew none of his followers will understand the language and he is their false truth voice. So my dear viewers, please share this video and be the voice of the innocent and the oppressed people until the Almighty God reveal His truth. Sahat al-Rahman, Zol Fax. Assalamu alaikum.
What brings you here today? To support Palestinian rights. We as Jews are embarrassed what's happening there in the state of Israel, in the Jewish name.
And what's your message to the people of Palestine?
They shouldn't give up the struggle. They should continue to fight and not give up the struggle against the state of Israel, because by the end, Palestine will be free, because this is truth. And the truth, which are free Palestine, will succeed by the end.
Let's go. Even Jewish people know Judaism condemns the state of Israel. The real ones know. The real ones know. The real ones know that even in your own faith you don't support this. This is against. I support these brothers.